I'm aware that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were in front of the media today at the Combine, and they said some pretty substantial stuff. We haven't heard Brad Holmes speak since the end of the season, and it seems like forever ago the last time we heard Dan Campbell, which was the middle of January, about the second week. But today, the video I'm doing today might be a little touchy, might be a little on the outskirts, but I've noticed that the Detroit Lions content creators are not really talking about this, maybe because it doesn't directly affect the Detroit Lions. It indirectly affects the Detroit Lions, but I am going to be the creator that does, because I think it needs to be a conversation that we need to have. And that conversation is, how hurt is Jalen Carter's stock going to be because of the charges that were brought against him? Now, if you are just now coming into this information, there has been an arrest warrant secured for Jalen Carter due to an incident that happened on January 15th, where he was maybe one of the people that was involved in perhaps a street racing incident. And what I find odd about this situation is that this happened 6 weeks ago. It was after the national title game, but why is it just happening now? My thought is that the charges are brought against him. My thought is maybe they had to get the evidence, get a case together before they took this to the judge to get a arrest warrant. But my thing is, how much does this affect his draft stock? Now, of course, the people that lost their lives and what happened, I'm not making light of that. That is not what this is about. But I know a lot of Detroit Lions fans wanted him. When the Detroit Lions were 1-6, it was Jalen Carter. Every other word was Jalen Carter, and how when we started winning games, we missed out on drafting him. And at the end of the season, I think people were happy with the 9-8 record and how we were able to turn the season around. But in between that stretch of us winning games as well, we lost Jalen Carter. And I wonder now, do you as a Detroit Lions fan, do you still want Jalen Carter? Now, Jalen Carter did say that the information that was put out before us and snatched up by the media wasn't true, and that he was going to set the record straight when it came to what happened that night and what he's being charged with. But I'm wondering, has he fallen out of the top 10? Has he fallen out of the first round? Has he fallen out of the NFL draft? And do you, as a Detroit Lion fan, want him? And more importantly, does Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes want him? Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes talked about, specifically Brad Holmes talked about today in the press conference, that being the right fit for the Detroit Lions is probably the most important thing when it comes to a player. It's not about the money. It's not about the name. It's about what if they are a good fit for this team. And like a lot of you believe that Jalen Ramsey wouldn't be a good fit, the same could possibly be said about Jalen Carter, because whether or not it turns out that he had something to do or he was holding something back, the information, even if all that passes, the damage has already been done. And will NFL teams want to take a chance on him? Now, I personally believe that he has fallen out of the top 10. We've seen when character issues can affect a player. The recent one I can remember is Laramie Tunsil, when he had that picture pop up and then immediately start plummeting in the NFL draft. So the damage has been done, and I think he fell out of the top 10. Will he go in the first round? He might, if he doesn't go somewhere else, if you know what I mean. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who's right. I don't know what the truth is, but hopefully the truth will come out. And if Jalen Carter is guilty of the things that he's being accused of, he's going to have to pay a price. And that price could be no longer being, I mean, you're a top prospect, a potentially first overall pick, and you may have thrown that away completely. So he might not be in the top 10. He probably won't. He might fall out of the first round. I mean, an NFL team may not even take a chance on him, but it all depends on what's going to happen when it comes to the reality and the conclusion of the charges that are being brought against him. So, question to Detroit Lions fans. Jalen Carter, do you still want him on the team? Does he still hold the same place he held before this information has come out? And if he is found to be guilty of no wrongdoing, how do you feel? Do you think that the damage has already been done as far as his NFL career? And from a draft standpoint, this shakes up the entire draft. I mean, the top 10 has rearranged itself. We knew that Carter was probably going to go before our pick, and now that will negate a spot in between where he would be drafted and us. So another player might have become available. Today in a press conference, I believe it was Dan Campbell that said you can never have too many edge rushers. So for those of you believing that the Detroit Lions may not take an edge rusher, I think that would be a little presumptuous of you to believe that, even though people have said that. So my thing is, how much does this shake up the NFL draft, and how is this going to affect the Detroit Lions when it comes to the NFL draft? Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts. My name is Derek. This is Detroit Lions Syndicate. Sometimes you got to talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about because they need to be talked about. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself. And as always, go Lions.